Hello, I'm Sadeli, and I'm doing a walkthrough of DevilSec Linux privilege escalation box. It's a pretty straightforward machine for beginners. You just SSH into the machine, and there are 4 flags. The first flag, sadly, is free, and the user, sadly, can run the command vimtutor as tayari without a password. So after running vimtutor as tayari, you can drop into a bash shell, and the tayari user can read a file in the var backups directory. So this file is a password protected 7-zip file. So you can use John the Ripper to crack the password and extract the contents of the 7-zip. And you'll see in the contents of the 7-zip there's a git repo, and the repo contains a private SSH key. So you can use that private SSH key to log in as the Ubuntu user, who then is able to see a directory called /opt/serial. Inside the serial directory is a Python script that reads a YAML file, and there's a cron job running that script as root every 2 minutes. So if you read the script, you can find that it's vulnerable to deserialization. So you can create a malformed YAML file that when the Python script deserializes your payload, it will execute whatever command you put in the YAML file. So that being said, let's do the walkthrough. I already downloaded the sadeli RSA key. Let me make my font a little bit bigger. All right, now I can SSH into the sadeli user at dockerd.devilsec.org. Tac P, I'm going to pick 3004. You can choose whichever one you want, as long as it's in between 2 and 20. And then tac I sadeli RSA. And that should work. Is it going to? Maybe I need to use a lowercase p. There we go. Fantastic. First try. So let me do an ls tac la, and there we go. Sadeli.flag. Looks like the group sadeli can read it, so I should be able to cat the flag just fine. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Perfect. I always like to run sudo tac l when I'm on a box. I forget off the top of my head what that means, so let me read the man page for sudo. And I can go down to tac l somewhere. Tac l is short for tac list. So if no command is specified, I can list the commands for the invoking user. So that means if I run sudo tac l, it should list out whatever commands I'm allowed to run as some user. In this case, I can run the command vimtutor as the tayari user without a password. Perfect. I don't remember off the top of my head how to run a command as another user, but I think it should be somewhere around here. Let me search for, I don't know, user. Let me just jump through, and that looks right. Tac u for user. Run the command as a user other than the default target, usually root. And so I think that means I should run sudo tac u tayari to run a command as tayari. And the command I want to run is userbim vimtutor. So let me hit enter, and I'm dropped into vimtutor. I don't particularly want to go through a Vim tutorial right now, so let me go to my handy dandy GTFO bins and search for vimtutor. And vimtutor is not actually in here, but Vim is. So if I read this site, I can use Vim to break into a shell. So the vim command is :bang/bin/sh. That's pretty straightforward. So I can do :bang /bin/ I'll just pick bash. And if I hit enter, I'm dropped into a bash shell as the user Tayari. Who am I? That's Tayari. What's my ID? That's Tayari. So now I'm logged in as the Tayari user. Let me go to my home directory and ls-tac.la. There's a Tayari flag, so I can cat that out, and vim is better than Emacs is the flag. So there's nothing else really interesting in here. Let me do some basic recon on this box. If I do ps-fox, it lists a bunch of processes. This is my SSH session, so I logged in as sadeli and started a bash shell. Then I ran this exact command, and then it launched me into vimtutor, which then spawned a bash shell. That's my process right now. And then I ran ps-fox. So this is all my activity. Nothing else looks super interesting. Maybe entry point looks kind of cool. So if I do entry point, looks like I don't even have permissions to read it. So that won't be much help. There's a cron job and there's a tail running, but I can't really tell what either of those are doing. Let me try to run netstat tac tulpen to view my open TCP and UDP ports, but it looks like only port 22 is open, which is SSH, and I already knew SSH was open. So that wasn't very helpful. Maybe I can search for files that belong to me. So I'll search for files that belong to the group Tayari, and I'll send errors to the void. Let me get rid of this. Okay, so I got a lot of garbage. I want to get rid of this proc directory. Let me ignore that. So I'll pipe this into grep. tacv I think ignores these files. So I'll ignore /proc. And that looks a lot better. So this is pretty obvious. Of course, the files in Tayari's home directory are going to belong to the Tayari group. These are the vimtutor files. So this is the vimtutor swap file, and this is the actual tutorial file. And since I started vimtutor as Tayari, it makes sense that these files would belong to Tayari. And this is pretty interesting. There's some 7-zip file that belongs to Tayari. If I cd into /var/backups, run ls-tac.la, and sure enough, there is a guessinggame.7z file that belongs to Ubuntu, but is readable by the group Tayari. So I could extract it here, but I don't actually have privileges to write in this directory. So let me copy this file into /temp. And now let me try to extract the contents of this file. So 7z, I don't remember off the top of my head. 7z tac h, and I can use the x flag to extract files with full path. That's what I want. So 7zx guessinggame.7z, and enter password. I don't actually know what the password is. Let me guess something, and that didn't work. If I look into the guessing game directory, there is a source and .git directory. But none of the files actually got decrypted, as I can kind of see here. So that's a shame. So to figure out what the password is, I could use John the Ripper. I think I could also use hashcat, but it doesn't really matter. It's a matter of personal preference, so I'm just going to use John the Ripper so I can easily extract the hash from 7-zip. I usually like to use hashcat when I find a hash already, but I think John the Ripper has some pretty handy utilities for extracting hashes from files like PDFs, zip files, and of course 7-zip files. So I want to download the 7-zip file onto my local machine. But I can't do that right now because other users can't read this. So I'll simply chmod o plus r guessing game.7zip. So this allows other users to read the guessing game file. If I do ls-l, this extra r should be here. Perfect. So now I can download the file with something like sftp. So I can use sftp. The tag p is for port, and then tag I is for identity file. So I can use sftp tag I sadeli.rsa or underscore rsa. Tag p 3004, and then the sadeli at dockerd.devilsec.org. And now I'm connected. If I do ls, I'm still in the sadeli directory, but I put the zip file in temp. So I'll cd/temp ls, and sure enough, guessing game is here. Can I use flags? Yep. I'll just download the guessing game.7z file. Perfect. And boom, there we go. The .7z file is downloaded in my local machine. So I can use 7zx guessing game to see if it's still here. Yep. Enter password. I have no idea what it is. Errors out. Okay, yeah, so there's no files in here. That's unfortunate. So what I'm going to do now is use John the Ripper to extract the password hash from guessing game. So John the Ripper comes with a whole bunch of utilities to extract stuff, and in this particular scenario, I believe 7z2john, yeah, 7z2john.pl is a command, or really, it's a script that comes with John the Ripper to extract hashes from files. Okay, it spat it out, so let me redirect this into, I don't know, the hash.txt. Okay, so this is the file containing the password hash. That looks all good. So now let me use John the Ripper. I don't remember how to use it off the top of my head. John options password files. Okay, so I probably want to specify a word list. Let's just try John tac word list. I'm going to use user share sec lists, passwords. Let's see, dumped. Nope. Where is? Oh, here we go. Leaked databases. rocku.txt. There we go. And then I can probably just specify the hash.txt file. Let's see if that runs. Maybe I need to specify the type of hash as well. I think I need to do that. So John tac h. Maybe I need to specify the format. Okay, tac list formats. So maybe it's somewhere up here. I don't remember how to use John. Search for list. Oh, list equals formats. So John list formats. Okay, and maybe search for 7z. Okay, it's there. So how do I specify a format? Format? Okay, yeah, so I can use tac format. So I'll go back here. Oh, maybe I just forgot to enter the equal sign, but maybe I also need format equals 7z. Let's see if that works. Oh, okay, it's done. How long did that take? 57 seconds? That's not too bad. And it looks like the password is butterfly1. So let me 7zx guessinggame.7zip, and I'll enter the password of butterfly1. Everything is okay. That looks good. So I'll cd into guessing game, and looks like everything is there. ls-tac-la, and perfect. I can read the README. Just a simple guessing game. I can look in source. Looks like it's some nonsensical Rust file. Who even programs in Rust nowadays? Certainly not me. But it is a Git repo, so I can probably check the Git log. There's only one commit by a user called ubuntu@devilsec.org, so I can probably guess that this repo belongs to the Ubuntu user. Let me list the tags. Git tags. Nope. Git branch. Oh, and there are two branches called dev and master. Looks like I am on the master branch right now, so I can git checkout dev to switch to the dev branch. So it looks like that worked. I'm now on the dev branch, and if I do ls-tac-la, or rather my la command that I have alias to show my groups. Oh, and there's an IDRSA file. That looks interesting. I wonder if that would work. So, yep, sure enough, this is a private SSH key. So now I can, well, first I have to chmod it. And now I can SSH Ubuntu at DevilSec, or no, it was dockerd.devilsec.org. I can specify the SSH key of IDRSA, and I can specify the port. The one I used originally was 3004. And I hope this works because I'm pretty sure that, well, if I do git log, yeah. It's owned by Ubuntu, so I can log in as Ubuntu probably. Oops. dockerd.devilsec.org, tac IDRSA, tac P 30,004. Perfect. Who am I? ID, ls-tac-la, and there's the Ubuntu flag. If I cat ubuntu.flag, the flag is I always check the branches. All right. I wonder if I can do the same trick I did with Tayari. So if I did psfox, yeah, the same thing is there. That's that tulpan. The same thing is there. So I'll just do the same thing I did before. So I'll find all files owned by the group Ubuntu this time. I'll send errors to dev null. And I want to get rid of proc again. So I'll pipe it into greptac v, get rid of proc or /proc. All right, so this is very obviously not important because these are all my Ubuntu files, but this looks good. There are files in the /opt directory. So there is a directory called serial, and looks like the Ubuntu user can read and write it. So I'll cd into /opt/serial, ls-tac-la, and there are 3 files in here. I can cat serial.yaml, and it just looks like a typical YAML file filled with, I guess, a serial brand, the serial name, and a rating. There's an output.txt file, so it looks like it just reads the YAML file and prints it into a table. And if I check the file of this main, so file main, it is a Python script, so I should just be able to cat it out. I wonder if I can just vim it. Okay, so now I have some syntax highlighting. Let's read this. So from tabulate, import tabulate, and it'll import some YAML stuff. So let's see what it does. With open serial.yaml, that's what we were looking at. It's going to load the serial.yaml file using a loader, and then all it does is write to my list. Okay, well, that's not super, it's a pretty short script. I can't write to it, but I wonder if something's getting run. Let's see, this file was touched at 154. If I do ls-tach-la again, still 154. I wonder what it was before. Oh, it was 152 before. So I wonder if we can check if this is being run routinely. I should probably check this out with pspy. So let me just copy this. Oh, this will take a while. My internet connection's bad. Okay, I'm just going to download this, copy. I'm going to go back to my home directory. Chmod plus x, pspy 64. And there we go. So this is running as root. This is running as root, ssh daemon. vimtutor, we still have this open, so I think we can just close this and it won't show up anymore. There we go. When I closed it, the tutor file was deleted, and this looks pretty interesting. Looks like there's a cron job and 24, and the PID right after that was a shell script that just runs opt serial main. So since we noticed that the timestamp changed for that output.txt, and since we're seeing this main file being run in a cron job with pspy, well, we're seeing it with pspy that it's being run in a cron job. So I think it's fair to assume that this is being run as root in a cron job. Maybe. Let's go back to opt serial, cat main. Let's try Google for, I don't know, YAML exploit Python. Let me just click the first link for Python YAML to serialization. I just wanted to see if I can, mess with this YAML stuff. And YAML Python libraries are capable of serializing Python objects and not just data. So if you can serialize Python objects, that could possibly mean that you could execute code when you load a Python object. As we can see here, if we just click RCE, it just shows us how to achieve RCE with this. So it'll show you that if we can create a Python object with a reduce special method, it'll get executed by YAML.load. This is actually also true for pickle, and I think it's some other library that depends on pickle. But yeah, pickle, the other one I'm thinking of, and then YAML all have the exact same vulnerability where if it loads a YAML file that contains a Python object, it executes the reduce method. So let's write up our exploit. It reads this serial.yaml file, so I should probably overwrite that. And luckily, I do have permissions to overwrite that. Let me just copy serial.yaml to a backup so I don't actually don't actually mess stuff up. And let's code some Python. So I want to import YAML. Import YAML. Okay, there we go. And I want to create a class. So I'll do a class. My payload derives from an object. And I need to create a reduce special method. But before that, I need to import OS. And now I can create a class on my payload. It's an object, and now I can create the reduce special method. And all it does is it returns a tuple. The first object in the tuple is os.system, which is the function. And the second parameter in the tuple is another tuple containing the arguments. So I'll just simply put a string of, I don't know, chmod plus sx to put the suid bit on bin bash. And note that I need to add an extra comma at the end of this string so that it's a tuple. Okay. That looks good enough. So I'll do YAML. So let me do payload equals YAML.dump my payload. So I'll create an instance of my payload and dump it. So now if I see the type of payload, it is simply a string. And this is the YAML file. Let me print payload so it looks better. There we go. This is proper YAML syntax. And when it's loaded by the cron job, it should run os.system with an argument of chmod plus sx bin bash. So this is just a command that gets executed as root. All right, perfect. So let's write it to a file. And if I recall that this specifically reads serial.yaml, so I have to write it to the file, or I have to write it to serial.yaml. So if I open serial.yaml with write permissions, I can fp.write my payload. And now if I cat serial.yaml, oops, serial.yaml contains my YAML payload. So now this should successfully exploit the deserialization vulnerability. So now if I routinely try cat output.txt, nothing's inside it. So if I do ls-l bin bash, it looks like the suid bit was set. So now if I run bin bash tac-p for, I think it's preserve privileges. Let me check. Man bash tac-p. Let me privilege. Oh yeah, privileged, same as tac-p. There we go. Tac-p does turn on privileged mode. So the env and bash and files are not processed. Blah blah blah. This should give me root. Who am I? ID. There we go. The effective UID is root at least. So if I cat root.flag. Oh, I'm still Ubuntu. Let me see if I can go into root now. There we go. Cat root.flag, and there we go. The flag is guys, I hate Python. So to recap that last one, since it was a little bit tricky, this is called a deserialization vulnerability. So deserialization vulnerability. It's a pretty common. It's a pretty common vulnerability. I believe the technical term is insecure deserialization. I guess you can find it in web apps too. So you can read up all about this. Serialization is when some program converts a data structure, such as a Python object, into some format. In our case, the serialized YAML file contains some list of cereal brands, and deserialization is the exact opposite. It reads a serialized YAML file or JSON or whatever the serialization method is. In our case, it was a YAML file, and then it deserializes it into an object. And in our case, if it does it insecurely, it potentially enables an attacker to manipulate serialized objects in order to pass harmful data into an application. So we passed in some serialized object. In our case, it was a system function with a parameter of chmod plus sx bin bash. And then when it was deserialized by this main program, which runs routinely in a cron job, this command was executed as a root. So yeah, that's it. That's the end of the Linux privilege escalation box. Hope you had fun with this machine. And then if you have any questions, feel free to ping me on Discord. And that's the end of the video. Thanks.